Welcome to the 10th anniversary DVD edition of Evolution of a Community, Muslim African Americans after Elijah Muhammad, 1975 to 1995. My name is Fatimah Muhammad, and back in 1995 I worked on this project, producing it with a collective called the Muhammad Group. The Muhammad Group consisted of Abdul Rashid, Rafa Muhammad, Saifullah Muhammad, Mohsen Abdullah, William Bilal, Abdul Hakim Wahid, Salim Zambizi, and myself, Fatimah Muhammad. Contributing to our work also were Khalid Morocco and Robert Pierce, especially for and Omar Kareem, especially for the video portion of the projects. It started out about April or May. I was contacted by one of the members asking me to contribute some ideas about projects that could commemorate 20 years of leadership and transformation that happened in the community since Elijah Muhammad's passing. And this was to be in time for the annual convention in September, so we had something like 4 months to get something going, have something to produce and distribute and share. So with no budget and pretty much whatever equipment we could bring to it, we actually got a lot accomplished. There was this video, a book of the same name, and an audio documentary. So this was all produced on pure ambition and does represent a rush job and a little technical inexperience. But I believe the uniqueness of the format and the historical importance of the comments and archival footage make it worth watching. The process of the video making and of writing the book took on the same approach, looking to get participants and members of the community to share their ideas and their stories about how being a Muslim and being under the leadership of Imam Muhammad affected their lives and their choices and their thinking. So we use them as kind of expert witnesses about this historical movement. We also collected archival footage from the ministry's archives and the Muslim Journal's archives. The images you'll see will come from videos as old as 1975 or older, and the newspaper clippings make up another majority of the images. Back in 1995, the documentary was also made in response to a growing recognition by demographers and social watchers and commentators about the growing presence of Muslims in the United States. And while immigration of Muslims from other parts of the world accounts for a majority of that, a significant portion of this growth came from U.S.-born Muslim converts, especially among African Americans. And now, 10 years later, this DVD edition is produced again to commemorate 30 years of Wallace D. Muhammad's leadership and work in the world as a Muslim spokesperson for all good efforts and interfaith dialogue and leadership for African Americans and progressive-minded U.S. citizens. as well as the climate and conceptions of Muslims post September 11th. The impact of those tragic events is still being felt by U.S. citizens overall and by Muslims especially. Looking at the opening of the video, it includes a portrait of Elijah Muhammad sitting while a young W.D. Muhammad stands holding a Quran, and a portrait of W.D. Farad is on the wall behind them. And these three figures are prominent in the discussion of Muslim life in the United States. And all three contributed significantly and made it possible for there to be a community of Muslim African Americans as broadly based as there is. At the opening also, I thought it was important to have a Muslim woman reciting the portion of the Quran that is being used. Our recitation is so beautiful. And also, I believe that having a woman reading the Quran at the beginning responds to so many misconceptions about women in Al-Islam being lesser or being subjugated. And I believe her recitation and her presence in this video addresses that. Now, the first segment, 1975 and 1980, Dawn of a New Mindset, is the longest segment in this video for many reasons. One is there was more archival footage, and this segment also had to address the profound changes that occurred, the changes in doctrine and teachings, the changes in practices, the changes in the population, and the changes in the leadership. And the other thing about this first segment is that there's a long clip of an address by Imam Muhammad in New York City. I included so much of it because his speech summarizes a lot of the changes, and I believe it also shows his charisma. The second segment, Basic Steps on a Clearer Path, includes a lot of music from Muslim musicians who were really inspired by all the changes in the new direction and inspired to write songs and have lyrics that the members of the community could have and call their own. And I believe the songs also demonstrated this very profound effect on culture that this community has had. Also important in 1981 to 85 segment was the use of the footage from the probate case protests. At that time, Muslims from all over the country came to demonstrate in front of the probate courthouse and make the public aware of the injustice that was occurring. Now, back in the 80s, consumer video cameras, or camcorders as they came to be known, were very new, and so this footage reflects that newness in format and newness for the average person coming to know how to use it and so on. But I believe it was a good use of this technology to capture this historical moment. And also, beginning in the 80s, as far as television and the average person, was the establishment of public access cable television studios in cities all over the country, and Muslims interested in presenting a full picture of al-Islam and discussing current events from an Islamic perspective were taking advantage of the equipment and the access that to the public that these facilities offer. So this segment includes clips from public access shows produced by Muslims from Atlanta, California, and Chicago. 1986 to 1990 segment entitled Framework for Growth is the most brief one in this video for a couple of reasons. There wasn't as much footage, archival footage to use, and the changes that were occurring and the historical things that did happen were happening in people's households. Profound changes that they were going through were very personal and individual in nature. So that progress was important, even while it wasn't as high profile. And I believe that this period was still important, even though it was low profile, because you can see the outcomes of it in the next segment. Leadership Horizons 1991 and 1995 highlights the prominent roles that Muslims took on. And for this segment, what became clear was that end of the century panic, moral panic about what's next and how could we have let things get this bad. So what could be next? People found answers for, or found some kind of anchor in the leadership of W.D. Muhammad and in the ideas that could be found in al-Islam. Another thing to notice in this segment is that there are more clips. Most of the clips even came from mainstream media. That demonstrates how the Muslim community, led by Imam W.D. Muhammad, was becoming more high profile and taking on leadership and leading positions in the cultural and social arenas.